So hi everybody, welcome to the Focus Cloud 24/7 series. I'm Mike Mortlock. I lead our North American team here. So today I'm delighted we're here with Jim Flowers, who's been in the ecosystem for at least 10 years. Very strong ERP background. So welcome, Jim, and why don't you tell us a bit about yourself?
Hello, Mike, and thank you for allowing me to participate here. So I've been in the consulting industry for 25 years. I'll stop at 25. I've worked in industries of collaborating with clients to partner with them to transform their business. And often, that leads to large business transformation, leveraging ERP software. So I've been pretty lucky to implement all of the ERP platforms. And of course, over the past 5 years, Workday included. And so how I got into Workday, one of my Accenture colleagues from years back was working at a large SI, first implementation of Workday globally. So they needed some help, delivery help for leadership, come in and put together an integrated plan, schedule, build a global team, and then go. So I was ready to jump right in and let's go make Workday happen.
Excellent. Yeah, no, excellent. I mean, as you've obviously been around ERP for as you say, 25 years. We're stopping there, but it's had a serious journey, isn't it? I mean, and obviously Workday being a US company, it started there and it's grown. So I'm keen to see what your thoughts are on the evolution of Workday over the past decade, and your thoughts on the product and why it's now challenging for the top spot in the HCM and financials ERP solutions packages.
Sure, absolutely. And I would say, of course, large enterprise companies, mid-sized companies, whether it's commercial sector, public sector, or higher ed, they're wanting to win in the marketplace, and that can mean a lot of different things in terms of winning in the marketplace. And of course, they're looking for innovation. They want to be an innovative company, and they want to use innovative solutions. So of course, when you think of that, let's move to the cloud. So we've got an incredible, employee experience, consumer experience, vendor experience that helps companies, run their business better. And I would say definitely, Workday, it's been around a decade or so. They're continuing to make big investments in their product, whether that's building the functionality, or acquisitions, but they're making key investments in innovative functionality that differentiates the product from other products. So that's why they're winning in the marketplace, and it looks very, very positive for them in the future.
I couldn't agree more. I think I've been in the Workday ecosystem coming up 3 years now. I've been in recruitment for 10 plus. But just the things that I've seen in the last 3 years, the acquisitions, obviously, it's there for all to see. Some of boutiques kind of being acquired by some of the larger enterprise technology firms. So that's one part of the ecosystem and how it's kind of changed and how things are kind of augmenting. And then the product itself. Adaptive Insights, the acquisition of Adaptive Insights, Prism, Prism is, well, it's brilliant. I mean, it's an absolutely brilliant tool. And we're beginning to see more and more customers adopting Prism globally. And then, within the last kind of 18 months, was Cloud Platform, now Extend. And obviously we've seen similar ERP products with this capability, and the fact that that's available to Workday now and to Workday's customers, it actually really kind of it springboards
Mhm.
Workday as a platform, and its capabilities. So yeah, and I think obviously the title to the question was how it's evolved over the last 10 years. Um, and I think, you certainly the comments you made there are 100% correct. But then
Yeah.
also, it is about them being innovative. It is about knowing what other ERPs are doing and how they can do that, but be better at it.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, of course, they started with a HCM payroll, that foundation. Then, of course, finance. Most organizations, they're looking for the full suite. And so Workday is continuing to build out, the product, and especially now with the analytics and reporting and budget and planning, it's all integrated. So it's going to be great for customers now and in the future.
100%. That's the thing. It is a continuously evolving platform. So, I mean, we've obviously going to do a couple of these series. So, but we wanted to focus on a couple of things really for our audience today. So, I guess let's go in there straight with quite a deep question, I think, and get some insight from you. So, what business transformation should you launch first? Finance, HR, payroll, supply chain, student administration. If you was in the higher education sector.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I'd say in terms of it all depends, and there's not really, a cookbook. Okay, like do HR first, and I would say oftentimes, of course, you need to work with the client to figure out, what's their business strategy, how to link that IT strategy to the business strategy. But in terms of trying to figure out which ones to launch first, whether it's finance, supply chain, HR, you got to get down into some details. And when I say details, kind of collecting, of course, making sure you're understanding the challenges, the obstacles, where they want to go, of course. And then when you're collecting that data, of course, you're trying to build, let's say, the business case. What is the investment required to implement this roadmap? And then what are the benefits, both tangible and intangible benefits that can be realized for each one of the transformations? And so could be HR payroll transformation, could be finance transformation, could be supply chain. As you mentioned, you get into higher education, you got the student administration. All of those are big transformations, and all of those can create, tremendous value for the organization. As you start to determine, okay, that value created and how quickly you can get to it, kind of the other key element is, of course, having the leadership, and especially the change management leadership, to drive the journey. So if in some cases I've seen, well, there's a lot of value to implement HR first, but there's not really, let's say, the right leadership or change management leadership in place to, hit the start button. So clients will say, well, let's do finance transformation, over the next 12 months, and then we'll get in better position for HR payroll or supply chain. So it all kind of depends. Each client's a little different, but I think doing that business case roadmap, assessing the leadership, then you've got enough information to kind of put together the plan and then go.
I think you're absolutely right, and I like your insight there. And I think just to kind of bolt on from that and what you've just said there, a lot of I obviously speak to a lot of customers in the ecosystem across North America, and at the beginning stage of their journey, they might even be at system selection. But in your experience, there's obviously big bang effects, multi-phase deployment. when a company is thinking about doing a transformation, a business transformation, and with any of these Workday products, and not just these Workday products, but any kind of ERP transformation, what advice would you give to companies like that? Would you say do it all in one go, or would you say do it in a multi-phase approach?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think in terms of good question, it all kind of depends. And I've done, both big bang and, the phased approach. And really the key, let's say the key levers were, of course, number one, and commitment, and
Sorry,
that level of leadership and commitment.
sorry, Jim, you cut out there. You cut out there, and I think what you was just about to say was going to be important. But I think the connection froze. So if you could just kind of repeat that, yeah.
All right, let me get the Wi-Fi going here. So in terms of, the Big Bang versus multi-phased approach, I've done both, and I'd say the key, of course, in terms of especially on the Big Bang, is client leadership and commitment. Okay, those are key element in terms of the client, its level of engagement and commitment to, let's say, the level of engagement, because Big Bang, you're trying to do it, quick, versus a multi rollout approach, which could last, 3 years. But I would still go back to, the client leadership and involvement. And, as I said, you got to look across, the enterprise. In some cases, global enterprises create more challenges because they've got locations globally versus dealing with a company here in let's say the US, could be, a lot simpler to execute there. But still, you got to just, work with the leadership, put together, here's all the facts, here's the pros and cons. Now let's talk about it and see where we end up at in terms of the plan.
Yeah, no, good insight there, Jim. Appreciate that. That was a little bit off key, but no, I think it's certainly for people that are going to listen to this. I think it's important because we know making any kind of transformation in the business is has huge impact. There's a lot of risk behind it, and it's you mentioned it in your answer there. Change management, so important, really is important. And I think me and you have been discussing this, and sometimes companies feel like they've got all of the skills they already need in the team, and I'm not saying they don't. But sometimes it actually, well, not sometimes, I think every time, you're better off bringing in a Workday change consultant, somebody that has led companies through these transformations. I mean, I've obviously worked with quite a lot of companies and placed change managers, and it's an influential part of the transformation. And having somebody that's done Workday, whether it's Workday Financials, Workday HCM, supply chain, or even student, it is different. It's different to one of the other ERPs.
Yeah, definitely. In terms of when I think of the project team, of course, is critical, and in terms of the makeup of that project team, and of course, client leadership, client middle management, client doers, and then in addition to, of course, those client people, then it's the external consultants. And in my transformations, of course, it's important to have people that have done the transformation before, okay, with that solution, and have a deep understanding of the industry and the functional area. And then number two, of course, Workday's participation on the team. I've seen sometimes where clients will say, well, we don't need the software vendor. We just need the software. That's it. We don't need any personnel from the software vendor. And I'm like, no, you do. You absolutely need to have, a solution architect that's got multiple transformations on the resume. And what is absolutely what I've seen with Workday And what's been so successful is their customer success manager deployed to the project.
Yeah.
And I think in terms of, that's another reason why so many, companies, I'd say, love Workday, is because they've got that customer success manager that's going to help them with their team and their external partner get, let's say, to the finish line, and things pop up. And of course, sometimes it is related to the software. And so when you have that software solution architect from Workday or the customer success manager, they can help resolve the issues faster and with, let's say, the right answer. So another kind of key success factor for, the business transformation.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more. I'm connected to a lot of customer success managers at Workday, and yeah, they're fantastic. And obviously, as a Workday customer, you're going to have pain points. You're going to have problems. You're going to have issues. I mean, it's not foolproof. And obviously, there is the continuous updates, biannual updates, new functionality every year. So some of these things can cause a bit of a headache to the customer. So, but that kind of leads us into our final question of this pod series, and that is, what are the critical success factors for launching a Workday business transformation? You've highlighted some of them, but I know you've got a lot more on that topic.
Yeah. Well, I wish there was just 3, but there's not.
Yeah.
And definitely there's a few. And when I say a few, maybe I'll just kind of highlight, and I know we've kind of talked about, a few of them, but, of course, executive sponsors. Okay, we've talked about that. When I say executive sponsors, I'm not talking like, the director of accounting. I'm talking the president of the company.
Yeah.
Okay, CFO, CIO, CHRO, head of procurement. So number one, executive sponsors, and not only from the client, also from your external partner and Workday. Those are important elements in terms of the executive sponsors. So if we need to make changes, we've got executive leadership engaged. I think on the project team, we talked about that. The project team is critical, kind of the makeup of the project team. And, I'd say the key elements are project management, okay, in terms of deep project management skills, and then also making sure that you have the change management training and communications. Sometimes clients will we'll worry about that later.
Yeah.
They won't have that set up. But the key thing during that journey from plan to deploy to hypercare is, let's say, that change management and getting, let's say, the client personnel bought into this new solution, because this new solution, you're going to use it as is. Okay. You're not going to have a bunch of customizations like we used to have over the past 2 decades. The other key element is a project charter. So that project charter lays out, the scope, the schedule, the project team, the stakeholders, and of course, everybody stacks hands on that project charter. This is what we're going to do. This is the funding that we have for this program. This is our schedule. Now we need to go do it. So everybody's got to stack hands on that charter. And then, I think the other elements related to that, of course, we've talked a little bit about the integrated project plan. Integrated, it's functional, it's technical, it's change management. Another key element that everybody needs to be aligned on. And then risk management. Sometimes people will kind of just like, let's go. But oftentimes this is sitting down with the leadership and let's identify the risk that we're going to have during this journey. We're laying those risks out. Then we're laying out the mitigation strategies to mitigate those risks. And we're assigning ownership to, let's say, our client people and the external partner in terms of managing those risks, so they don't create curves in the road, big curves in the road as you're executing the transformation. And then probably the last one, of course, you need funding. Okay, you need the right level of funding for these transformations. They're not small little projects, so you got to have sufficient funding, and that's not only just for the software and the external vendor, it's for the internal team as well. When I say that, oftentimes internal team members are pulled out of their department to be full-time on the transformation engagement. So they've been moved, and then oftentimes when they've been pulled from a department, somebody has to backfill for that person. So there's funding needed for the internal resources as well. So we have that right level of commitment. I can't do this because I've got my normal day job that I got to go back to. So those are, I guess, some of the key success factors, critical success factors, and having fun on the journey as well. You gotta work hard and have some fun too.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah, I think there's some really insightful points there to make it a successful transformation. I think definitely. Well, actually, I agree with everything you've said there, and obviously there probably is a few more, and we'll probably cover them in other series. But yeah, I think funding is definitely up there. If you obviously people think about the funding, they think about how much the product's going to cost from Workday itself. What they actually want. Are they going to purchase all of the modules or just a handful of them? Do a multi-phase approach, whatever. All of that's all very well and good, but it is about the internal team. And it is also about getting the funding to make sure that you've got your internal change managers, you've got your project manager, you've got another solutions architect, you've got a test manager. You've got a test manager in early as well. And that's like one of the things that I do here quite often is the test managers come in a little bit late, or they buy them when they think that they need them because they've saved maybe 9 months worth of money. But actually, you're better off getting them at the beginning because then they're there through the entire journey. And there are no surprises. They do all the test cases, all the test scripts, and you just got that one person that's doing all of that. They've got one central point of person to go to, and they've seen the journey all the way through from architecture all the way through to deployment. And then obviously making sure, quite honestly, you've got money for contractors, because I don't think I've ever heard of a project where they didn't need at least one contractor. Sometimes the contractors are planned and sometimes they're not. It's when they're not, that's when it becomes a headache, because then they got to go and get budget approvals. They might not know how expensive a Workday contractor is, which you and I both know is, when you've got a niche skill set in any technology, you're a commodity. And all of a sudden your value goes up. But no, some really good points there. Really good point.
The project team, depending on some of these global implementations, they can be 50 resources up to 150 resources. And oftentimes clients are like, hey, I really want to get this done in 6 months. Okay. 12 months. Okay. And so that's where, finding the right people for that team, is critical, whether it's somebody for integrations, architecting all the integrations, reporting, analytics, in some cases on the functional side. So there's lots of different places where, contractors are absolutely needed. But, good stuff. The team is critical. This is takes humans to get this stuff done.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, it might be a cloud platform, but it's still humans that do it. But look, I think that's probably a good place to finish for this podcast series. We've obviously got a lot more to come. So obviously the LinkedIn network and the Workday ecosystem are going to see a lot more of Jim Flowers over the coming weeks. But Jim, I want to thank you for your time, your insight, and as always, it's always a pleasure.
Pleasure. Thank you for inviting me, and really appreciate it. Thank you.
No problem at all. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.